are the New York Knicks. We are the New York Knicks. We are the New York Knicks. We are the New York Knicks.
Say go New York, go New York, go.
Go New York, go New York, go.
Say go New York, go New York, go.
Go New York, go New York, go.
All right, we are back here on the hotline here. We have the New York Knicks in the second round of the NBA playoffs, the second year in a row. They have knocked off the Philadelphia 76ers in a heartburn-inducing series, but back with me to recap what we saw from the Knicks as they get ready to move on to face Indiana. Tom Bocchino from the Sorry to Interrupt podcast. Tom, has your heart rate slowed down yet from that series?
Hey, man, it's great to be on, as always, and no, it hasn't. I was explaining to Sean as a Knicks fan, and pretty much as an adult, that outside of the Yankees, I really don't know a team that has been favored and expected to win in the playoffs in my adult life. So I didn't really know how to deal with the nerves of being like, if we lose this game, it's going to go to 7 and then anything can happen. I'm used to being on the other side where it's like, oh, we made the playoffs. If we win the series, it's gravy. So last night was a new experience for me, especially when it comes to the NBA. I was on the edge of my seat, very nervous, but the Knicks were able to completely, I would say, do the opposite of what they did the game before that, where it was just a complete sloppy mess for the last 3 minutes. And you know what? I credit the coaches and the team. I love this team so much. They just completely turned it around and had a 180 in this game.
Yeah, for sure. And this series as a whole, I mean, like, it was probably about as classic a first-round series you'll ever get. I mean, the 6 games, the 2 teams were separated by a total of 1 point. Like, Nick there said best, I think, during the broadcast, as they showed part of the press conference here, nothing matters in this series. It's going to be close at the end. That's exactly what happened throughout the whole way through. And, like, I said it online after the game, I said, whoever watched the series, you basically aged yourself 10 years watching as you're a Knicks fan.
Absolutely. I mean, if you wanted to just skip the first 3 quarters, you could have just watched the fourth quarter of every game. They were sloppy but incredible at the same time. These two teams are the Phillies playing hurt and they're doing everything they can, and then the Knicks, that's just their game. They're just a hard-nosed team. They're going to grind you out, especially when Brunson's not on the floor, and they're going to make you earn every single bucket.
Yeah, that's for sure here. And we got a couple of things to talk about from this series here, too. So our close look on Philly here. I think the one thing that we learned this series a lot is, like, the reputation that Joel Embiid being a dirty player really exploded with the amount of, like, flagrants that should have been called and weren't called, the play against Mitch Robinson in Game 3, like, the amount of, like, shivers and shoves that he was throwing around here. I mean, like, Joel Embiid took a big, like, reputation hit this series.
I completely agree with you, and it kind of transformed for me as well. And it happened in real time to where I always thought I said this to Sean on our podcast where Sean was just saying he's a dirty player, and I said he makes dirty plays, but I don't think he's a dirty player. I've done a 180 on that. F Joel Embiid. I can't remember if we cursed on this pod or not. F Philly. Screw the whole city. Pick it up and give it to Europe or something. They could just go somewhere else. I mean, they are our sons. We own Philly. And yeah, Embiid is officially a very dirty player.
I mean, he had more flagrant fouls in the regular season than Draymond Green. It went underreported until we saw this series.
Yeah, I think now we're all starting to see the light. And what a way to just end the series, just fouling out like a little baby back bitch. Sorry, I said bitch on this pod. That's it.
Good.
That's it for me.
That was warranted.
Thank you. Yeah, now, he definitely is. I mean, off the top of my head, he's got to be one of the dirtier players in the league now, especially just after this series.
Yeah, I mean, take that away from his ability on the floor, because, like, he is a great player, like, in terms of, like, there's no weakness to his game.
That's what annoys me about him.
Like,
you don't have to be a dirty player.
Yeah, it's frustrating, because, like, with all he can do, he can shoot the jumper, he can shoot free throws, he can attack the rim, but, like, all we're talking about him is here, like, him, like, kicking guys in the balls and tackling guys on the floor, and that he's getting protected by the league, because there's anybody other than Joel Embiid commits that foul in Game 3 because Robinson to throw out of the game.
Exactly. And obviously the other, the dirtiest player in the NBA is probably Draymond Green. And he'll probably tell you that, but outside of him, it's Embiid. And yeah, he had an up and down series, and obviously we can blame the injury, but then you look at Embiid and you talk about his career, and it's like, okay, you want to blame the process for the first 4 years, then fine. But since then, it's like, you want to tell me you're the MVP and you're a top 3 player in the league, and, like, I get it. You had Ben Simmons and James Harden do their things, but it's like, I've seen so many fourth quarters where it's like 2 points, 1 rebound, no points. It's like this guy folds every single fourth quarter, and I feel like I have to stand on the mountaintop and scream it because nobody else is saying it. You're right. He seems to skate by.
Yeah, that too. Plus, if you think about it here too, I mean, like this is also a guy here who, like, yes, I know he's great when he's on the floor, but he's always hurt. He's turning 30 this year. It's like how many years are you gonna waste of this guy not getting out of the second round of the playoffs?
Well, yeah. How many years are you going to waste, and then how many years does he have left? I mean, you've mentioned the injuries. Not to mention he's 7. He's a giant of a man. Not only is he 7'3", he's not like a Porzingis or something 7'3" where they're a little bit skinnier. He's a big guy. So, how many more years of quality Embiid realistically do you have left with all these injuries, the age combined with the size?
The other thing that annoyed me too in that series is like going back to that 2020 draft again, like. How the Knicks, all their Kentucky connections were not on Maxey bothers the hell out of me.
I completely agree. He was sitting right there. And listen, I don't want to badmouth my Knicks after that series, but it was righteous of you. It was right of you to point that out.
Yeah, I definitely have to point that out here. And we also have to point out how great Jalen Brunson was in this series. Obviously, he had the struggles in games 1 and 2, but once he got back to the Wells Fargo Center, like he really started taking off here. I mean, we're putting him he's doing things that has been done since Michael Jordan. I mean, 37 points in 4 straight playoff games at least. Like, he was making big shot after big shot last night. I know there were issues with the free throws, but everybody who said, oh, Jalen Brunson's a 1A, he's not a big-time player, like, they can go shove it.
You can curse, too. I mean, it's not my pod, but you can curse. I mean, yep. But I completely agree with you. I voiced my concern the first 2 games because I was worried, how role players end up on the road in the NBA playoffs. They don't play as well, and we need more Brunson. But then he shut me up on game 4 through game 6. I mean, he's been incredible. It's just every time he goes by a guy, like you're like that's got to get pinned to the backboard, and then he slips by Embiid and just lays it up right off the glass with that little swoop and lay-in he has every time. It's truly incredible. He's just words can't describe him. The one thing I will say that you mentioned is let's get in the gym. Let's not practice too hard and get ourselves hurt, but let's shoot a lot of free throws, boys. A lot of free throws.
Not just him, the rest of the team too.
Exactly. Josh Hart too. I mean, he hit that big 3. Don't get me wrong. But it's every time he goes to the line, every time it's crunch time, I'm like, oh my God, they're going to do hack a Josh right now. It's going to be terrible.
Yeah, and I mean, the incredible thing with Brunson, too, I did think it was great when he was calling out Kenny Smith on the TNT postgame last night about UNC losing to Nova in 16. That was great, but it's just the fact that, like, this guy might go down in terms of, like, pure bargain value as the greatest free agent signing in NBA history.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to be in the tops. I'd really have to go back in time, but given the contract that he has, I mean, could you really name that many other players? And it's tough to do in the NBA because of max contracts too, where it's like you don't really get too many players of that ilk on a discount. He just wasn't of that ilk until he showed up to New York.
Yeah, that's true here. And let's take a look at one of the big impact from this series here is the injury of Bojan Bogdanovic, which came on a dirty play from Batum diving at his knees. He ends up tearing ligaments. He needs surgery. He's out for the postseason.
Those Frenchmen can be a little dirty, always, by the way. Keep your eyes on the French. Gobert in the second round, too.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that here. But the thing is frustrating about Bogey because he was coming off the bench here. He was hitting some big shots. He had a big impact the first 2 games in New York, and he gets hurt. Now he's done here. And we've seen how little trust Tom Thibodeau has for his bench here. And considering they're going to only get deeper in the playoffs, like these guys going more minutes, like it makes you realize how important it's going to be because you don't feel like he's going to go give like Burks or Achua a ton of run here. He may try and just run 7 guys to rotation with Bogey out.
Oh, Tibbs, of course. Every player in his rotation that is going to play all 48 minutes or whatever. Bogey, he's not a Tibbs player, but especially for this Indiana series coming up, it's a huge loss because this is like we're going from a knockdown drag out series to a complete shootout, and we were going to need his 3-ball, and it's really going to hurt that we don't have him.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, like, if at this point, like, obviously, like, the biggest backup guard here right now is Deuce McBride, who's had his moments in these series here. It makes you wonder, like, if game 1, do they consider giving Burks a little run, because if Burks can like knock down a couple of threes, that could help in this series.
I agree with you, but also I don't think Tibbs has the stones to throw in an ice just to pull Burks out of the freezer. Because when was the last time he played big time minutes? And you know what? It's like when Brunson goes out, you just got to cross your fingers and hope that Deuce fills it up, because he has been able to come in and play that Brunson role when he's not in the game. And you just hope that the fact that Indiana is an absolute turnstile on defense, that Deuce can get his as well.
Yeah, I know. I remember last night in the fourth quarter when Brunson went out of the game, I was like, can we please just get 2 baskets while he's out of the game? And they only got 1.
Exactly. When Brunson comes out, you just hope that they can hold it down, because it's like, where is the scoring?
Yeah. Or the creation as well.
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, because then, and you see it goes stagnant, where it's like, then you got DiVincenzo, who just made, I love DiVincenzo and I love the signing this year, but he has been a problem in the playoffs with decision making. And it's just, when Brunson's out, bad decisions for the Knicks are made. I mean, he has the ball all the time, and none of these other guys are playmakers. It's a problem.
It is a problem here. And we are looking, another thing I will point out here before we move on from this series here is that we talked before the playoffs about how the Knicks, like you and I had a disagreement on this. I said, you know what, like, if you're going to like be the 2 seed, deal with Embiid now when he's like still not fully there. And the basketball
You were right.
The basketball guys reward the Knicks. I mean, Milwaukee loses the series to Indiana. Lillard gets hurt. Giannis never come close to coming back. Cleveland's in a dogfight with Orlando in the 4-5. Both teams like pretty much openly tanked to avoid the Sixers here. The Knicks took on the task and won.
Exactly, man. And I was begging on your pod, on the last pod I did with you, for the Knicks to play the Pacers, and now they got them, and I'm a little nervous about that. I might be eating my words on that one, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, we got a Knicks-Pacers series now, the second round, starting on Monday night here at the Garden, games 1 and 2 here. And what's your takeaway from what you saw from what Indiana did against Milwaukee?
I mean, Milwaukee was missing, obviously, by far their 2 best players, including probably the second best player on the planet behind Joker. Yeah, I'm going to say that Embiid, Giannis, prime Giannis, and healthy Giannis is better than you, period. So there's really not, I can't really say how great the Pacers were, because, I mean, the Bucks were destroyed, not to mention the horrible season given their standards over the last couple of years that the Bucks had, firing their coach within the first couple of weeks, and then Doc was just completely up and down. But for the Pacers, it's run and gun. It's like we're just, both teams are playing opposite basketball, going at 100 miles an hour at each other, and we're going to see who can get through. I mean, are the Knicks going to be able to slow down the Pacers, or are they going to be able to run all over the Knicks? That's kind of what it is. What pace is this series going to be played at? And we're going to find out Monday.
Yeah, and I think one thing you have, like Indiana, you know, they have all the scoring with Halliburton. They have Siakam's had a good series. Obi Toppin came off the bench at a big game against Milwaukee here. But Milwaukee doesn't play defense either. They're going into a series now where they basically be drawn to a street fight against the Knicks.
Exactly. I'm hoping, I mean, for my eyes, it's not going to be fun to watch a mucked up series, but that's how the Knicks are going to win this, if they make this series ugly, and I fully expect them to do that. And I'm going to go out on the limb and say Knicks in 6.
Yeah, that's what I locked the wager in before you recorded. I had Knicks in 6. I placed the bet.
I like that. I'm glad to have you on my side.
Yeah, 'cause I feel like Halliburton's got to win one going on a heater. That's going to happen this year. It's probably in one of the games in Indiana, he'll get one. They're probably, I could see this being a 2-2 split after 4 games, and the Knicks like get game 5 at home and close it out.
I mean, for me, it's like, let's see what Halliburton's got. His numbers went down significantly after the the play-in tournament, whatever, the mid-season tournament, and I don't think that is a coincidence, because right at the All-Star break, the NBA decided to loosen the defensive rules. And you know what? For me, it's like, on tip, if I'm Tibbs, I'm like, OG, go lock him up for 5 minutes and see what he can do.
Yeah, they will.
The Bucks didn't have anybody that could stop him, and he still had an up and down series at the beginning. Let's see one of the best defense. Let's see him against one of the best defenses in the league. Let's see what he can do.
Yeah, that's why I think. Like, I know that they have not considered it much yet, but I think Achua could also be a good defensive presence in this series. I know the issues of the floor spacing with them on the floor, but I do think like with the athleticism Indiana has down low, it might not be a bad idea to get him in the mix.
If Achua is in, it makes me nervous because we're playing 4-on-5 on offense. I mean, the guy is missing layups at this point.
Yeah.
And I think it is actually because he's a really solid defender, and I saw that a lot in the regular season. But I think the offensive woes are affecting his defensive game because he has struggled on that end, decision-making wise as well.
He did play well against Embiid in Game 3 after Mitch got hurt.
He did. He held it down, so that leaves me a little bit of hope. But I saw a lot of switches and whatnot, and he just didn't seem fully locked in. So hopefully he can re-lock in and maybe get some points, to get that confidence up as well.
Yeah, for sure here. I do think in terms of the Indiana situation, I do think the matchup here is going to be fascinating in terms of just, the guys they're going to roll with in this series. Obviously, we know how great Halliburton is. We know they got Siakam and they're trying to make that mix work together here. But, they're getting stuff from guys like T.J. McConnell's having a big playoffs. We have Doug McDermott floating around hitting threes on the outside here. Like Miles Turner.
I don't think that'll stop. Those role guys are established players. I mean, McDermott's been in the league for a long time, and he can knock down a three, and then McConnell's just a dog.
Yeah.
So I think those guys will be heard from. For me, it's really just a matter of, can you guys put Halliburton and that pick and roll that he does with either Siakam or Turner, can you just put him in jail? Just put him in jail for a couple games and have him, have 18 to 22 points instead of his 30, and we should be able to win.
Yeah. And we'll point this out here as well. They have to win game 1 at home. They have a long run here
1,000%.
where they lose game 1 at home when they're the higher seed, they don't win the series. So game 1 is massive for them.
Game 1, you never want to lose home court, especially in the first game. And it's like you said, it's even bigger for the Knicks. They need to win this game.
All right, let's go around the league a little bit here before we wrap things up here. So, first off, as of date of recording today, the Lakers fired Darvin Ham. They're losing 5 to the Nuggets here. I saw there's a big story in The Athletic about all the issues he's having with his rotations and playing weird lineups and putting guys who are bench guys in bigger roles here. But that situation feels very bizarre that he's made the playoffs 2 years and then basically got shoved out the door.
It would feel bizarre for me if it was in any other league or any other sport. With the NBA, it's just unless the owner fires the GM is going to fire the coach if things don't go the way they are for the superstars to cover his own behind. Rob Pelinka, that was a guaranteed. You could have said that at the beginning of the season. If you guys lose in the first round, you're going to fire Darvin Ham. And if you gave him truth serum, he would have said, yeah. Every GM in the NBA does the same thing. It's job preservation, and they're just going to blame the coach. Even though it's should you have given up the world for Russell Westbrook a few years ago and set yourselves back so you couldn't have any role players against Denver, even though LeBron is playing like he's 25 again, and Anthony Davis looks like he's never been injured in his life, and you guys still could only squeeze one out against Denver, and it's the same exact thing as last year. It's not Darvin Ham's fault. And playing with the rotation, I kind of understood that because you're getting murdered by Denver no matter what you do. And so I don't really blame him for grasping at straws because he was just trying not to get swept like last year. But we saw this firing coming a mile away. I mean, I wish they wouldn't even let you bet on it because it would be minus 10 million.
Yeah, they wouldn't here. And a couple series that are wrapped up all here already here. The big surprise the first round is Minnesota just completely steamrolling the Suns. And with the way the rules are in the NBA now, the Suns are really, really screwed at this point because they can't really do anything to make this roster any better.
Yeah, I really didn't think that it was possible to be a team more screwed than the Lakers with what they've got going on with their cap space combined with the lack of picks and old players. But the Suns just said, hold my beer. I mean, that Bradley Beal contract is nothing in the NBA is untradeable, but he has a no trade clause, not to mention he's making $15 million next year. And he scored what? In game in the closeout game, I think he fouled out and he had like 4 points or something like that. Like that's what you're going to get out of your third max guy. I mean, we could have a 5-hour pod about how terrible Kevin Durant's off the court choosing team decision making has been since he left Golden State. And that's new owner syndrome for the Suns. I mean, they are in a really tough position. And I'll tell you what, if I'm the Knicks, I'm definitely making a couple phone calls this offseason about Booker and Durant.
Yeah, well, like it feels like that Kevin Durant's gonna get wandering eyes again. I think they might give it one more run here, and then like if they flame out again next year, I can very easily kind of see him trying to force his way out of the mess of leaving another inferno behind him.
Yeah, I think another guy you could give truth serum, if you could go back in time and tell KD, would you do it over again? I think he either would have gone to the Knicks or stayed with Golden State.
Yeah, I think his biggest mistake was tying himself to Kyrie as his wingman. I think once he did that, everything went downhill after that.
I know, he's probably sitting there looking at the Mavericks right now, like, where was this Kyrie?
Yeah.
For like, I don't know, maybe KD was just a bad vibe around Kyrie, and he made him go crazy for a couple of years there.
Yeah, that one happens here. Oklahoma City sweeps the Pelicans. No surprise there.
No surprise there at all, especially with an injured Zion. I think Brandon Ingram is a shoo-in for a trade candidate. He may go back to the Lakers, although it won't help him beat Denver. I will say, I got to give myself credit. I predicted the Suns on my podcast the day before, and then I came on yours and predicted Minnesota, so I'm going to give myself credit for that. But we got to give, before we move on, we got to give Anthony Edwards his due. I mean, he's 22 years old, and the things he's doing are borderline unheard of.
Yeah, he's a ridiculous player here. In terms of the other series going on here, as of recording, we are waiting Game 6 of Clippers Mavs. This series has been fun.
It has been fun. It's like it's such a tough decision because if Kawhi's quote unquote healthy enough to play, do you play him? But the Clippers with Harden, believe it or not, have looked so solid without Kawhi. You're paying him so much money. I guess you got to play him. I think this one goes 7, and I'm going to take the Mavs.
Yeah, like we said, that series here is an interesting spot. I feel like whoever comes out of this series is a shot. Like it's actually, I think it was the Clippers there with all their superstars. They have a shot to push the Thunder a little bit considering the inexperience. But I think either way, Oklahoma City's in for a fight the next round.
I agree with you. I was very concerned about Chet, and I'm less concerned after that first round series.
Yeah, the one thing that is in his favor here is that neither one of these teams has the big man who could bully Chet. No,
not at all. Like Gafford is just kind of like a dunker, slasher, rebounder kind of guy. He's not a bully. And then same thing with the Clip. Although I could see Zubac putting 20 on his head. He's a big boy.
He is here. We got the East here. Cleveland, Orlando's an ugly as hell. And right now, as we're recording, Cleveland's up 7 in the third quarter, Game 6, trying to close this out here. I know you went on the record saying Orlando could close this, was going to beat them here, but they played very hard.
Thanks for bringing that up.
They were a point away from being up 3-2 last game.
They were. I had this one going 7. I actually had the Mavs with the spread tonight as one of my picks from our picks pod that I do with your buddy Williams. I think the Magic will figure out a way to come back, but this is one of those series where if it goes 7, it doesn't. It's like I would rather have watched like a 4-game Sixers series in a sweep because it would have felt closer. Because all these games are such garbage. It just happens to go 7. The most uncompetitive 7-game series ever.
Yeah, the will I see for Orlando here, it reminds you a lot of the Knicks playoff series against the Hawks when they only had Randall and nobody else, and Paolo's Banchero's trying to do everything he can to carry them. He's having no help.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think listen, the Magic have a lot of cap space to spend. They're a good young team, and you can't discount that no state income tax in Florida too. I feel like that's going to get somebody. It almost got Tim Duncan back in the day, and it did get Tracy McGrady. So let's see if they can go out and get a scorer. A Paul George would be perfect for them. A guy who can play with them defensively in lockstep and also be able to go out and get a bucket because they desperately need some help. Yeah. But you know what? They're a few years away anyways. I don't think anybody expected this, and I don't think they even did. So
yeah, I don't think they did either. Plus, I know Paul George is going to be perfect for them, but Philly with all their cats basically be making a big push for him as well.
Oh yeah, I think if the Clippers lose this series, you might as well bet PG to the Sixers because I think between PG being a little bit salty that Kawhi gets all the preferential treatment, on top of the fact that the Clippers cap situation combined with the desperation that the Sixers are going to have now, I think it's a shoo-in.
Yeah. And whoever wins the series gets the Celtics here, but the Celtics are now down Porzingis after he gets injured by Miami. And the Heat always seem to find a way to deliver a knockout blow to one of your players in these series. And Porzingis now has the calf strain that basically kept Giannis out for a couple of weeks. We'll see how that affects him, but I don't think they have an issue getting through either of these teams.
Not at all. This is going to be a blessing for the Celtics playing either of these teams because they're going to be able to probably win in 5 or 6 even without having Porzingis, be able to get him healthy because NBA playoff series last forever, and then roll right into the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, I think if you're Boston, your hope right now is that you can win this next series. Well, first of all, you're hoping this one that Orlando comes back and it goes 7, and that it gives you even more time to rest Porzingis before the series starts. And then your hope is that you can win this series quickly without him and have Knicks Pacers be a war, and then you get him back healthy for the Eastern Conference Finals.
100%.
Yeah,
no doubt.
Yeah, and it's funny here because I know they showed a little vulnerability in game 2 when Miami went and won on their home court. Then they sort of kicked another gear the rest of the series.
Yeah. Also, Miami shot a million threes, and I think they shot close to 50% that game. So we're gonna throw that one out. It was an anomaly.
Yeah, but Miami without Jimmy Butler getting a game against the Celtics is impressive.
Oh, absolutely. It's wins. Listen, winning the playoffs is a win. It was a good job by them, but I mean, they just had a 4-leaf clover off their bust that day. That's all.
Yeah, they did. We will see what's going on here, and if the Knicks advance, we'll come back and do this again ahead of the Eastern Conference Finals.
Absolutely, but first, give me your pick to win the title.
I've had the Nuggies as a repeat all year. I'm going to go with that.
I'm right there with you, man. I don't think anybody can beat that team.
Yeah, I know. I feel like we're due for. I feel like we're Nuggets Celtics. Nuggets have been locked since January. I feel like we're going to get that Nuggets win in 7.
I totally agree with you, man. I don't think anybody can stop the Joker or Jamal.
Yeah, that's for sure. Tom, thanks a lot, time. I really appreciate it. If you want to keep up with you guys over on the Sorry to Interrupt podcast, I can do that.
Give us a follow on Twitter at Sorry Sports, and then Sorry to Interrupt podcast across anything you can listen to podcasts on. Yeah,
just search it, you'll find it.
And also, might as well plug that you're coming back on our pod to do something way different. This Tuesday, I believe we have it scheduled. We are going to be doing a Star Wars recap, and you're also going to have to remind me which one I'm supposed to watch first. That's how little I know about Star Wars.
The original one, episode 4.
Well, yeah, I would have gone with 1. So there you go. Is there even a 1?
There is a 1. 1 is actually being replayed in theaters this weekend for Star Wars Day. It came out 25 years ago.
So I got to watch 4.
Yeah, you got to watch 4 because 4 came out, the original came out in 1977. It's the classic trilogy. You got to do the traditional Star Wars series. You got to start with the OGs.
1,000%. You're also going to have to send Sean and I what numbers those are, and I will be watching it by Tuesday.
Yeah, if you have Disney Plus, it'll be on there. It's on there.
Perfect. I have Disney Plus.
All right, I'll tell you guys off air which ones to watch. Thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it.
Of course, man. Have a good one. Thank you.